So today first we'll say like what are some of the commonly used macros, and then we'll say like the practical application of that macro functions, and then about data interface functions and all we'll see. Okay. Now coming to some of the commonly used macro functions. Suppose say that if you are creating two macro variables, suppose say like x and y, %x, I'll store the value called 10 in macro variable x. And I'll create another macro variable called y, and in that I'll store the value called 20. Okay. Now tell me one thing, if I write here %let, okay, I'm creating another macro variable z, which is equal to macro variable x into macro variable y. Now can you tell me what is the value that will be stored in the macro variable z? 200, 200. Okay. Okay. So let us check what is the value that it is storing. Percent put ampersand z, right? Execute. What is the value it is storing? 10 star 20, right? Without doing the calculation, what it is doing? So here we have ampersand x cross like star and ampersand y. So what is the macro value that is stored in variable x, macro variable x? 10. And what is the value that is stored in macro variable y? 20. So 10 star 20 without doing the calculation. By default, SAS stores any macro variable value as a character data type. Okay. Although if you are giving a number, it will store any macro variable value as a character data type. Now, if you want to do any kind of calculation with this, you have to make use of some function called %eval. Okay, %eval of. Okay, now it will do the calculation. Check. See, now it is giving you 200. So in order to calculate, do any kind of calculation. In order to do any kind of calculation, you have to make use of %eval. Okay. Now tell me one thing here. If I write here decimals, okay, and with decimal values, if you want to do any kind of calculation, then you have to make use of the function %syseval f. Okay, %syseval f. This is the function that you have to make use of. Execute. Then only it will do any kind of decimal calculations. Okay, %eval is for just normal numbers calculation, and %eval f is nothing but for decimal numbers calculation. Okay. Now, suppose say that I'll store value called x equals to 10, okay, and y equals to, I'll give it as r x analytics. Now tell me what is the value that will be stored in the macro variable y. Hmm? See, so what is the r and what is macro variable x value? 10, right? So r 10. Because semicolon terminates the SAS statement, it will just store the value called r10 in macro variable y. See, r10. Okay. Now here, but I want to store the value like this. I want to store the value in macro variable y. R10 semicolon and analytics. Like this is the complete value I want to store. In this case, what we have to do, we have to ignore the meaning of the semicolon, right? What is the meaning of the semicolon? terminating the SAS program statement. So here we have to ignore the meaning of the semicolon. In order to ignore the meaning of any special character in programming, except macro triggers. What are macro triggers? Ampersand and percentage are the macro triggers, right? So except macro triggers meaning, okay, if you want to remove the meaning of any other special characters, then make use of %str. Okay, it will nullify the meaning. It will ignore the meaning of the special characters except macro triggers. Now you execute. It will store the value called R10 semicolon analytics. Okay. Now, suppose say that if you want to store the value like R ampersand X semicolon and analytics, like you don't want to resolve this variable X into 10. Okay. In that case, what you have to do, you have to ignore the meaning of this ampersand as well, right? You can ignore the meaning of this ampersand by writing %NRSTR. Okay. Now you check, see, R ampersand X and analytics. Hello, are you clear with STR and NRSTR? Three of you? Yes. Okay. Now, similar to this, you can make use of any other functions also, as like suppose say that if you want to convert all these values to uppercase, okay, you can make use of %upcase. Okay, all the character functions you can make use of. Okay, see. Wait. See, it is converting the complete value to uppercase. Okay, like this you can make use of any functions like substr function, scan function, upcase, lowercase, propcase, find functions, index functions, almost all the character functions you can use it here. Okay. Now, similarly, suppose say that X I have here. Okay, so now I want to count how many words are there in this macro variable X. Okay, how many words are there? Generally, how many words are there? 1, 2, and 3 words, right? So I want to count it. In order to count, you can make use of the function called count w of ampersand X. Okay, so since if you write like this, it will not work. So you have to write mention percentage. Sometimes even if you mention percentage, that also will not work. You have to make use of the function called sys function. Okay. You have to make use of the function called sys function. Execute the program. Now it will work. It will give you the count. How many words are there? How many words? 3 words. Okay. So there will be some character functions which will not work directly. If you write like just percentage and the character function, it will not work. In between, you have to write this sys function as well. Okay. Clear with this part? Now we'll see some practical application of these functions. Okay. Now tell me, whatever datasets that we have in SAS help library. Okay. Let us take some 3 or 4 datasets. Okay. Like AF dataset, cars dataset, classes dataset. Okay, these are the 3 datasets let us consider. Now tell me one thing. I want to print all these 3 different datasets. So what is the program that I have to write? Like what are the programs that I have to write? Proc print program. So proc print data equals to SAS help dot air, right? Run. Next, proc print data equals to SAS help dot class and run. Proc print data equals to SAS help dot cars and run. Now, so rather than writing the same program for multiple times, what we can do, we can develop the macro, right? So how do you develop a macro for this? Person macro, then you give some macro name, and after that you give some parameter name, right? And after that, here wherever you have to give that parameter ampersand rename, and then you end with percent mend, right? Right, percent mend. Now tell me one thing here. When you execute this one, how do you call the macro? Percent pnt, huh? And then you write here the name equal to whatever dataset name that you give, it will print that particular dataset name, right? But that particular dataset it will print. No? Suppose if you give here like SAS help dot cars, SAS help dot cars, it will print cars dataset. If you give here SAS help dot class, so it will not print all the three different datasets simultaneously, right? In order to print the three different datasets, again you have to call the macro three different number of times, right? So here my intention is when you execute, like print all the three different datasets at the same time. Okay? Like when you execute the macro for once, it should print all the three different datasets. In that way, you have to write a program, which means first I'll copy this one into work library. Okay. So here my intention is when you write cars, when you write class, and when you write cars, okay. Okay. So it has to print all these three different data sets, which means SAS has to scan automatically, right? Like for the first time when it is executing this particular program statements, okay, when we call this macro, it is nothing but it executes this program statements, right? So for the first time when it is executing that program statements, it has to execute print a dataset, and automatically it has to execute the same program statements for second time, and it has to print class dataset. So which means automatically it has to scan. For the first time it has to scan for age data. For the second time it has to scan for class data. Third time it has to scan for cars data, right? Automatically it has to do. And since we want to print three different data sets, automatically it has to execute that program statements for three different number of times. I mean, it has to execute that particular macro for three different number of times. So we have to write the program in such way, right? So for that, what I'll say is, in order to execute any program times for multiple number of times, okay, which method we can use? Like, what is the option that we can use? Huh? No, do block. Right? So when you want to execute the same statement for multiple times, you can make use of do block, no? So use do block here. Rather than using like simple do, I'll use do while. Okay? So I'll say I equals to 1. Okay? And uh, do while, okay, I less than or equal to 3, because it has to execute the same program statements. I mean these statements for 3 number of times, right? So do while I less than or equal to 3. Okay. And when we are using this I loop, you have to give the increment or decrement condition for I, right? Or else how it will increment. So I equal to I plus 1. Okay. I'll give that increment condition. And now what it has to do for the first time when it is executing, or else when I equals to 1, it has to scan for the first data set. Write the another program statement in such way. Okay. So here what I'll write is, I'll write here the name equal to, what should be the data set here? The name equal to, I'll write here scan of, okay, 1, comma 1. Okay, right? So out of scan is nothing but when you write here 1, out of all these 3, whichever is the first word, it will scan for that, right? So it will scan for air. When you write 2 here, it will scan for class. Rather than we changing it manually, let SAS change it. So here we are anyway assigning I equals to 1, I equal to 2 and I equal to 3, right? So instead of 1, you keep here I. So when I equals to 1, here it will be 1. It will scan for the first one. Okay, when I equal to 2, it will scan for the second one. When I equal to 3, it will scan for the third one. But rather than you writing the dataset names here, okay, assign any name. Okay, I'll assign the name as dset. Okay. Here also it will be dset. Here also it will be dset. Okay. Now, I equal to I plus 1. And when how do you enter do block? With end statement. So now what happens when you write I equal to 1, do while 1 less than or equal to 3, condition true. So it will execute the statements, right? Dname equals to scan of dset comma I. Scan of dset as in what we have given in dset. These are the values that we have given in dset. So out of all these values, what is the first value? Air. So dname equals to air. Proc print data equal to air and run. Okay. And what is the increment condition? I equal to I plus 1. If you are missing this condition, I value will be always 1. 1 will be always less than or equal to 3. The loop will run for infinite number of times. Okay. So in order to avoid that, give condition either increment or decrement condition for I depending on the value that you are declaring here. Okay. So I equals to, what is the value of I already? 1, right? So 1 plus 1. So I equal to 2. So 2 less than or equal to 3. Condition 3. Since it is a macro programming, here you have I'll tell you. Since it is a macro programming, okay. So here we have to declare all the variables as the macro variables, right? So create a macro variable. How do you create? By using %let. Okay. Similarly, %do and %while. Okay. And here it will be. So I is nothing but this I and this I both are same, right? Which means you are making use of the already created macro variable. So call it ampersand I. Here also %let. Okay. Dname equal to, okay, %scan ampersand dset. Okay. Here also ampersand I. Okay. Proc print data equals to end. Okay. Now here also %let I equals to, and here it will be ampersand I plus 1. But it will it do the calculation like this? No, right? In order to do the calculation, make use of %eval. Okay. And here %end. Clear? So now it will print all the 3 different data sets at the same time. See, this is cars data set. See, this is 8 data set and this is class data set, cars data set.
Pavani,
Yes.
I didn't understand why we need to do I twice with let.
Okay. So because here you are creating the macro I equals to I plus I equals to 1, right? So here you are initiating the value of I, as in you are creating the value of I, right?
Yeah.
Here you are creating the variable I, right? So since it should be a macro variable, you are writing %let. And you understood why we are writing ampersand I here?
Yeah.
And here I you are not understanding, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So which is nothing but I equals to I plus 1. So How you are resolving this? You are writing I equals to 1 plus 1. So when I equals to 1, you are saying I equals to I plus 1, right? So which means this I is nothing but whatever I that you have created previously, that value of I, right?
Yes.
Using that value of I, you are creating, you are giving a new value to that, to the I, right? So
Yes.
which means this I value is new, as in you are creating a new variable, right, with the same name.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so it is percentlet, and here I value is nothing but already created I value, I variable value. So ampersand I. Clear?
Yes, clear. Thank you.
Pranita and Kavita?
Hello, Pavani.
Ha, tell me.
To print first data set, this I value it takes 2, no?
No, it will take one, no?
Because we are declaring I as 1.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I equal to I plus 1 means 1 plus 1, 2.
No. See here, I
Because
equals to 1 you are giving. 1 less than or equal to 3. Condition is true. Okay. So day name equals to percent scan of ampersand D set. So air, class and cars. Okay. So high value is 1. So out of these three, what is the first one? A. Right? Because
okay, that means
we have
first,
given value of I as 1. Then when it executes all the statements, I equals to I plus 1, right? So I equals to what is the value of I that you already have? 1. So 1 plus 1, I equal to 2. Again, 2 less than or equal to 3. It will check for the do while condition, no? 2 less than or equal to 3. Is the condition true?
okay,
So,
that means when I equals to 1, hello?
uh,
When I equals to 1, it will do its job completely. After
yes,
that, it will go into second data set.
yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
And so this is like a small example about how where we make use of that commonly used functions. Okay. Now the next one is debugging the SAS macros. This one we'll see. Okay. Now tell me here, did we create any macro like PNT we created, right? Did we create any macro like print? No. Now suppose whenever you haven't created the macro, I mean that particular macro is not present in the system, but still you are trying to execute it, okay? So then it will display some kind of error in the log window, right? See, apparent invocation macro print is not resolved. So you have one of the global option called M error, okay? M error. So this is the option that is running in your system. So whenever a macro call is not resolved, okay, like this, calling of the macro when it is not resolved, it will display some warning message in the log window is because of this option called M error. If you don't want to display that option, you can simply write no M error, okay? Execute, check log window, no M error. Now we execute this one, it will not print the warning message anymore. See? So whenever a macro call is not resolved, it will print some warning message in the log window because of the option called M error. Okay. Now the next one is did you create any macro variable like ABC? No, right? So write here percent let ampersand ABC. Okay, sorry, percent put. You didn't create the macro variable ABC, but you are trying to like know what is the value that is stored in the macro variable ABC. Okay. Or you are trying to use that macro variable without creating. So in that case also it will display some warning message in the log window, apparent symbolic reference ABC not resolved. It is displaying this error because of the option called S error. Okay, S error. Run this. Okay. So if you don't want to print that warning message in the log window, you can write no S error. Now it will not display any warning message in the log window. See? See? So previously it has given, but after activating that no S error, it is not displaying that warning message. Okay. Now the next one is mprint. So mprint is one of the options that we use very frequently. It is used to trace out the macro catalog. Okay. Now suppose say here after writing mprint, without writing mprint, when you are executing this macro, how it is giving you the result? Like in the log window. See from here, right? See, it is just doing this part, right? So after writing mprint, see the difference. Check the log window. See here, it will trace out the complete macro catalog, how it is resolving. See, mprint pnt. So what is there actually in this pnt macro? What are the program statements? These are the program statements, right, that it is executing. Whenever we represent anything with, like whenever we want to execute this program statements, we are representing it with name called PNT. So when you write %PNT, it will show you how it is actually resolving in order to get the output. See, proc print data equals to air. Okay, and run. In order to print the air data, it is resolving this particular PNT macro into this program statements and then it is printing. Okay. Similarly here, it will trace out the complete macro catalog. Now, suppose say that if you also want to trace out the macro variables that what you have written in the program, then make use of the option called symbol gen. Okay. See, mprint will trace out the macro catalog, whereas symbol gen will trace out the macro variables. Okay. Execute. Check the log window. See here, symbol gen, okay. Mprint is, it will trace out the catalog. See, symbol gen macro variable. See, how each and every macro variable is resolving into, it will show you. See, macro variable I resolves to 1. Macro variable D set is resolving to air, class and cars. Again, macro variable I, see this one, it is resolving to 1. Macro variable D name, this one, is resolving to air. Okay. So whatever macro variables that you have given in the program, it will show you like how it is resolving, as in what value it is taking in order to print the outputs. See, again, in the second thing, macro variable I resolves to 1. I, which is that macro variable, this one. Okay. And then macro variable I is resolving to 2. That is this macro variable. Okay. Next, dset is resolving to air, class and cars. Okay. Next, dname resolves to class and it is printing class dataset. Okay. Are you clear? The difference between mprint and symbol gen? Hello? Yes. Okay. So this is about like some macro debugging options. Okay. Tomorrow we'll see data interface functions and how to store the macros permanently in a library. And there is like multiple ampersand concept that also we'll see tomorrow. Okay. All those 3 concepts will complete tomorrow, so that the macro programming will be ended. Then we can start the new concept. Okay.